Fast Podcast. I'm Katie Pickler. We're going on a road trip today, and riding shotgun is the best person ever. Cort wins it.
Really? I'm the best person ever, Katie.
Yeah, you are. You're the perfect person to go on a road trip together.
Okay, road trip.
And there's the opening bell.
So today is the second part of what we decided was going to be a two-part series on car loans. We're still in our debt series, but there was so much information that we needed to get across that we wanted to split it into two. So last episode, you should have walked away with a good idea of what goes into the actual decision-making process of whether or not to get a car and what type of car you need and so forth. And this time you've decided you're going to get a car, and we're going to talk to you about how do you get one? How do you pay for it? How do you pick, where do you go? We're going to cover all of that.
So, top 5 for this one, it was kind of easy to think about. So last time we talked about cars from pop culture.
Yeah.
So this one, it's like if Cort and I had unlimited money,
yes,
what would our dream cars be?
And assuming, of course, that I can't have the DeLorean time travel machine.
Yeah, I know we had to knock out any of those fictitious cars that were from movies. So these had to be real ones that we could actually go on and buy.
Yes, no talking cars, no time travel cars, we just strictly cars that theoretically, some of these might require quite a bit of money, but theoretically you could go out into the world today and find one and buy it.
Of course, I think with a good amount of money, you could make the sleigh from the Santa Claus that has the cookie that pops out and the warm milk. I mean, it would be great. Around Christmas time, how fun.
Sure. I mean...
Okay. So let's go.
This week's top 5 is... Top 5 dream cars.
Yes. Okay. My number 1 is going to have to be a Range Rover. I've always wanted one, but, I have been told by some friends who are mechanics that this not be a very good car for me because it'd be in the shop a lot. But, a girl's got a dream. And this is a dream list.
Let me ask you this. Do you want the Range Rover? Do you want the Land Rover Defender?
The Range Rover.
The Range Rover.
Yeah, preferably a black Range Rover. I think it'd be very sleek and nice to, go shopping around and, have the kids in the back, or the nanny could have a matching one,
Sure.
Just dream big.
Now, let me ask you this as well. Are we doing the whole, starting with least to most, like that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. That's how I'm building this up.
Okay. All right.
Number 2 would have to be a Wiseman Roadster. I fell in love with this because of Cruel Intentions. It's such a classic looking car, and I just would love to have one of those.
Now, just to be clear, you're talking about the car that Ryan Philippe drives, his character drives?
Yes.
Okay.
That then she ends up getting when he passes away.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. And she drives off in the sunset. Wonderful. Let's see. Number 3 would have to be the Lykan Hypersport. So this car is $3.4 million. Vin Diesel actually owns one of them. It's a Lebanese car, and they only made them between 2014 and 2017.
I did not know that Lebanon had such a burgeoning car industry, that they had a $3.8 million car out there.
Well, I mean, it's exclusive, and so if it's good enough for Vin Diesel, it's good enough for me.
Oh, I'm sure. I have no doubt.
Okay, number 4, this is a combination of my younger self, but then also trying to make my older self happy. I would love a hot pink Lamborghini. Think like Barbie, but then mashed up with a bad arse car of a Lamborghini. We're keeping it PG here, buddy. So I just think that'd be awesome. And then my top 1. So I actually got to drive a classic car, a Rolls Royce Corniche convertible when I was in Monte Carlo. It was amazing. It was beautiful, and I learned how much maintenance goes with those beautiful old cars. So I really want to have just an old classic car, probably a classic Mustang, but I do know that building in expense, if I was to buy one of those, I'd also have to buy myself a personal mechanic.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good thing to keep in mind.
Yeah, dream. Never stop dreaming, everyone. Dream big.
Well, you mind if I go ahead with mine?
Go ahead. Okay. I want to hear yours.
Here come my top 5. Number 5. I'm just going with the newest, hottest thing out there. It's called it's a Lamborghini, because I had to have a Lamborghini on my list, but I don't really have one that's my particular favorite. So I just went with the Lamborghini Aventador.
Oh.
Yes, Aventador.
That sounds exotic.
It just looks sweet, and it just kind of really sort of spoke to me today. And I was like, yeah, got to have a Lamborghini on my list. One of the first cars I ever loved was the Lamborghini that they drove in Cannonball Run. I don't know if you ever saw that movie. That one. Yeah. So, been obsessed with Lamborghinis almost as long as my number one car. But anyway, number two, gonna go with now listen, let me just give you this caveat.
Uh-oh.
I was kind of almost trying to build a not necessarily the perfect garage, like the ideal middle class garage where, reasonable cars. But if you took the ideal middle class garage with maybe a utility vehicle and so forth, I tried to take that and then amp it up to like, okay, these are the cars that I really don't anticipate ever actually getting to own in my life.
Okay.
So number two, or I guess number four, counting down, would be the Bentley Continental. I'm a Bentley guy, not a Rolls Royce guy, but I do need that sedan. You want that high class, high value sedan.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it just I've always liked it. Plus they're surprisingly fast. I mean, you look at something like a Bentley or a Rolls, and you just don't think about it being this super fast car, but
no, because I feel like you want to drive slow, so everybody can be in envy of you.
Well, sure, but they've also got some kick in there.
Okay.
So, number three, counting down. Number three is okay. I cheated a little bit. Put a Harley on there because I've always wanted a motorcycle. My wife won't let me get one, hence why it's
Harley man. Okay.
Yeah. I've always wanted a motorcycle. My wife will not let me get one, but they remain on my list forever. And the one that I went with today, because I'm fascinated with it right now, is the Harley Davidson Livewire. It's their new electric motorcycle.
Electric, look at you.
Yeah. And I figure for as much as I would ride it, the fact that you probably it actually doesn't go that far on one charge. It's in terms of the length, in terms of the distance you can go on one charge on this particular bike, it's not very far. But considering
I would not want to be on a motorcycle when my battery charge goes out. Not a good thing.
You just coast. It's not like it's not like an electric plane where if the engine goes out on an electric plane, you in trouble.
Yeah.
Okay, number two, 1969 Ford Bronco V8. Okay, it's got to have the V8 in it.
Like OJ?
No. This is way more classic than OJ's
okay.
Bronco. This is a couple of decades more classic than OJ's
Gotcha.
Bronco, and it is a good looking truck, and it is, it's. I don't know. I've always there was a guy that I went to high school with that drove a classic Ford Bronco, and I loved his classic Ford Bronco and always wanted one. And then my number one car of all time, I don't care what year it is. I don't care, but it has to be a Porsche 911. I will take a 911 no matter what. No matter what year, no matter what make, no matter what specific features, just so long as it is a Porsche 911, I'm down. I love that car. If I pull up next to one at a gas station or at a stoplight or whatever, I'm gonna stare. I love it. There's my top five.
I do have to admit that for the longest time I thought it was Porsche, and then I've been educated in my older years that it's Porsche. So.
That's one of those things where I still hear people say Porsche, and I'm certainly not highfalutin enough to be going around correcting people. I mean, it's Porsche, but yeah,
potato.
I've heard it pronounced Porsche, and I've been corrected when I did not pronounce it Porsche. So
gotcha.
I pronounce it Porsche, but.
Okay, so a little bit about last time. We talked about understanding transportation and knowing if you need to have transportation or if ride share or public buses, whatever works for you, and making sure you understood what the role of a car would be in your life, who's going to be driving it, what its purpose is. It going to be hauling stuff, long distance traveling? What is it going to be? Understanding your price tag, making sure, there's the word, budget, making sure it fits in your budget.
Yeah, go back to that budget episode, or the debt episode, I guess it was, when we talked about how much of your monthly income should a car debt take up, and we gave it a cap of 20%.
Yes.
So make sure that you're fitting it into your cap.
Well, and now's the perfect time to say, remember, it's not just that payment each month of your car. It is the maintenance. It's going to be the insurance. And something we didn't mention last time, it's going to be the gas.
Yes.
I know there's cars out there that you have to have premium. Like mine has to have premium. And I'm shocked when people are like, oh yeah, gas prices are great. And then I go and I'm like, oh, they're still bad for premium.
Yeah.
So that's something to consider as well, as figuring out like if you've got a certain type of gas that your car needs, that's going to jack up your price.
Do you have to drive? How far do you have to drive? And because that will affect how many times a week you're going to have to fill up. What kind of mileage does your car get if you get a car? And then finally, what kind of gas does your car require? If you're driving a foreign sedan, then chances are it's going to require that premium fuel, that 92 octane, I guess it is, 91, somewhere in there.
Sounds about right. I don't know.
92, 93, whatever it takes.
But we tried to stress last time about doing your research, making sure you figure out what's going to be the best. Don't go with like our dream list and want to get, the Porsche or the Bronco or whatever it may be if that doesn't even fit in your budget, or that's not even what you need. If you're going to be lugging a bunch of kids around, you don't need a 2-seater car.
No, that's true.
And a lot of times we're all guilty of social media showing us these great new cars, but we all have the power at our fingertips to research and look at not just what the dealership website is saying that this is the best car, this is the safest car. You've got outside sources that can really verify that or tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly. I mean, reviews out there, I'll be honest, like I am the world's worst. If I love a product, I will tell my friends, I will publicly say that, but I'm terrible about going back to their sites and reviewing and putting a good review of it. So a lot of times you get a lot of the bad reviews, but sometimes even if you look at the bad reviews on like a car or something like that, it may help you because you may be like, well, that person's complaining because the cup holder was too small. Well, I mean, they just, have issues
that would make
anyways.
a difference for me. I need that 32-ounce cup holder. It needs to fit the big cup. I'm just saying.
But you get what I mean, that like you look at the good and the bad and you go from there and do your research, do your homework.
Okay, so we covered a lot of that in that last episode. Just the idea of what goes into actually deciding, do I need a car? And if so, what kind of car do I need? And like maybe you just need a Corolla.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So fun fact about that, the Toyota Corolla is the best-selling car in the world, with one being sold every 40 seconds.
That's a lot of cars.
40 seconds.
I mean, that means that they produce a tremendous number of cars as well. Not only are they being sold fast, but they're being cranked out fast. You know what I'm saying? Actually, you do, because that was pretty clear what I was saying, right?
Yeah, that was very clear. Okay, so you figured out that you want a car.
You are going to get a car. You do not have public transit that is available to you that will work with your job, or you do not live within walking distance or biking distance of your job. Whatever the reason is, or you've got a large family of small critters that can't get themselves around.
Picture a bunch of raccoons when you say critters.
Well,
or like the little critter book.
Like a Disney princess or something with all the little critters like Thumper and Bambi and stuff like that.
Okay. Well.
Anyway, if they can't get around, you need to haul them around in something. So you got to have a vehicle because you got to get your family around. Then you've got to have one. So you're saying, yeah, I know what I'm going to need. I know I've got to get one. So definitely going to get a car. What's next?
So, and we want to briefly touch on this. So you've decided you need a car, but say that you're in a bad situation. Say that your credit score is not that great, and you know that it's going to be hard for you to get a car where you don't have enough cash on hand to pay for it outright, or you need to finance it, but you know that there's going to be struggles. So there is something called the tote-the-note dealerships, and we need to discuss it because, I mean, we got to say it. Yeah, we got to say it.
Yeah.
So these are dealerships that really are people that are saying, we don't care about your credit, we care about you. Well, be very weary of that. Look at it and be like, okay, hold on, let me read the fine print here. Because if you're needing a car and you're bad credit, then buying the lowest cost car with the shortest financing to build up your credit is really the best way. Because then say you get a car and it really is just it has an engine, it has, hopefully a door, and, but it can get you from point A to point B, but it's not glamorous. It's,
right.
Paint chipping, whatever. But you get it, you finance it for, a year, 2 years, you're showing that you're paying for that car, and that's helping to build your credit up. So then you can then get closer to getting your dream car and not having to work with a certain group. But those tote-the-note dealerships, don't go to a tote-the-note dealership. It's a bad idea.
You can go to a bank. Yeah. You can go to a credit union. Credit unions are really good about financing cars with either new or used cars. Yeah. So
when I was saying that before, it's you could go to a dealership that has a used car on the lot and pay the 20, 30, whatever it may be, % interest for that short period. Yeah, it's going to stink paying that high interest, but you get what you need. You're not stranded, and you're not locking yourself into a tote-the-note dealership that may not even report your credit. Because a lot of times with those, they're
not credit. You're not getting that you're making all of your payments on time and that you have this outstanding line of debt or whatever.
Yeah.
They're just,
and it's still the insane interest rate, and it's sometimes they even put tracking devices in there. So you better believe it. If your check got lost in the mail, they're coming for you. They're going to get their car, and then you're going to be stranded at you're
stranded at
that girl's house that you just had one date with, and now you're stuck with her. So, whatever. But, okay, I had to put the disclaimer out there about the tote-the-note dealerships. Just do not.
It may serve a purpose, but, is it the only way you can get a car? If it's the only way that you can get a car, then okay. If you really need that car, then maybe do that. But go in with your eyes wide open. There are a lot of little hooks that can get you in the tote-the-note dealers.
Yeah, and I think we talked about it a little bit last time. Dealerships have kind of changed, and it used to be this whole image of the sleazy car salesman. Like in Matilda, I think, whatever his name was, Wormus or something. Wormus.
Whenever I think of a car salesman, I always think of Cadillac Man. That was the first movie that my wife and I ever went to see. Like, our very first date ever was to go see Cadillac Man. Horrible movie. Do not recommend it, but a sentimental value. Anyway.
Well, so it used to kind of be a sleazy car salesman that he was trying to get one over on you and get the car, and you walked out the door with your car, and he didn't ever care about talking to you again. Well, the world has changed. It is based on reputation. It's based on referrals. And so these dealerships are wanting to work with you and take care of you. And so if you were in this bad situation with the bad credit, then you probably could go talk to them and be like, hey, look, this is my situation. See if they could help you out. And a lot of time, I'm not speaking for all dealerships because they're all different, but a lot of times you may luck out with that nice salesman that's going to help you out. Now, if you're needing that kind of situation, don't go to the Porsche dealership. Maybe go more to the Subaru or Honda.
I just want the Porsche, Katie. I want it.
Okay.
God. So here's the thing. You've decided you're going to get a car. There are certain questions that you have to answer. One of them is how am I going to pay for it? Obviously. Are you going to finance it? Do you have enough cash that you could just buy something outright? Most people aren't just sitting on thousands of dollars that they can pay out for a car. So how are you going to pay for it? Well, chances are you're going to have some sort of financing available to you from someone. Yeah. Unless you're just going to get that really, really cheap beater. And listen, sometimes a better option might be, okay, I'll put $2,000 on this beater that will get me from point A to point B, and then wait and build up my credit in other ways, and then finance something down the road. But remember, the whole idea of getting the car is that we are treating this car as an expense. So you're taking into consideration part of your transportation expense for your living expenses. Part of your transportation expense is the car payment itself. We're not saying this is an investment. This is just part of life expenses.
Part of living.
And so you can certainly the dealerships will work with you. Honestly, the dealers, they're not making their money on selling brand new cars.
No. Yeah, a lot of their money is made from those used cars. I mean, they may get a tiny bit from the new ones, but they're brand new, they're hot, they're going. They don't make a ton on that, but it's on those used cars and on the warranties and the safety features and the add-ons, all of that.
Yeah, and then on the financing. They also make money on the financing.
Absolutely.
So that they will obviously, if your credit score is good enough and you're considered a good credit risk, then they have that financing available there. And that's don't ever go into a car dealership thinking that Their goal is to sell you that brand new car, and everything else is just value added to them. No. The car gets you in the door, but where they make their money and what they are motivated to sell you is things like the options and things like the warranties and things like actually financing it.
Yeah.
And that's how they're actually making their money. But keep in mind that if they build a decent relationship with you, they also get probably what is the big kahuna. And that's service. When you take your car back into them to their service station to get that car serviced, they really can. That's a revenue generator for them. So if they treat you right and they build a good, trusting relationship and you feel good taking your car back to them, then that's a win for them. But,
and also if your car's in service and you've still had this relationship with this salesman and he sees that there's some issues that are happening, then they're there to be like, hey, you know what? Let's save your money. Let's upgrade. Let's get you something else.
Yeah. So you've, I guess we should sort of deal with the fact that we really are focusing more on dealers today, and most of our scenarios are with dealers. We're not talking about going out and finding the blue book value of a used car and going through the paper and finding some private seller and buying it that way. That's obviously an option. Your financing options are going to be more limited when you do it like that, because obviously the dealer's not available to finance it. So then you're looking for a bank or, like I said, a credit union. But it is an option. More often than not, you might be paying a higher amount of just cash that you've saved up, and you're doing that in hopes that you can get the car cheaper from a private seller than you could from a dealer. Yeah. But there are trade-offs.
And I gotta stress again, when you just said that higher amount towards getting that car, where what we want to remember is that even if you've got, there's a great car, it's $3,000. I've got $3,000 in my bank. Well, you need to remember that you giving away that $3,000 in return for this car, what does that mean now that you won't have that available $3,000 to use? Because it's now tied up in your car. Your car's not going to be able to help you pay for your washing machine that broke because you have no more liquid cash.
Right. Like if you took that savings that we told you to set aside in our early episodes, if you took that to pay for your car, then you now no longer have that 3 to 6 months of your monthly income in a savings account that's available to you for emergencies, because you just spent it on a car. And great, now you can get to work, but if something else happens, then you don't have that emergency fund. So everything balances out. What are you giving up by using this money over here rather than saving it over here?
Yeah, absolutely. Understand the value.
So our premise is you need a car. We've already, we've established that you need a car, and our premise is going to be that you are looking at getting your car from a dealer, and what are your options as far as financing that car, paying for that car, and or leasing versus buying.
Yes.
Also.
So, it starts off, most of the time you're already driving a car. And so you may look at it to a trade-in value. And a lot of times you may see that someone decides to sell their car on Facebook Marketplace or in the paper. I don't even know if they do that anymore. But the value is that's so much time and also security of it that you don't know what kind of situation you're getting into. Okay, so say you want to trade with a dealer. It may be that the price you find on Kelley Blue Book or somewhere else, it might not be the same price the dealer's willing to offer you. But think about the time and the resources that they're willing to take that off your plate. They're going to take the car. They're going to take over selling it for you. So yes, you may be getting a little less money, but it pays off if you don't want to deal with the hassle of trying to sell it yourself.
Right.
So, okay, that's one thing to think about. If you're going to trade in, you might get a tax break when you trade one in and buy another. It's all on how much the car is worth, which we do have to throw the disclaimer in of a little jargon phrase in the car world of being upside down in a car.
Yeah.
Now, this doesn't mean you went whole Fast and Furious driving around and flipped a corner and boom, now you're laying on your upside down and still miraculously you're fine and can walk away and kiss the girl, because why do they always kiss after they've done something ridiculous or bombs are flying everywhere? Okay, sorry, that was my pet peeve.
I don't know, Katie. Don't get so angry at me.
So upside down on a car, if you owe more on the car than it's worth, the dealer, so let's use some numbers here. Dealer gives you $38,000, you owe $40,000. So you $2,000 difference. You may subtract the $38,000 from the $50,000, say that your new car is going to be. you're taxed on the difference plus fees, and then money owed is added back on in the end.
Okay. So effectively, you're still financing that part of your old car that you still owe.
Yeah.
So they're basically sort of carrying over that part that you still owed from the old loan and tacking it onto your new loan.
Yeah. So it can be done. It's just one of those, understand that if you're going to trade your car in, if you haven't had it very long or you had a really expensive car and you have been paying really low payments on it, you might be upside down in your car.
Which sort of leads pretty smoothly into the whole topic of whether to lease or to buy. Because a big consideration of whether to lease or to buy is, do you like to trade that car in every 2 years or 3 years? You know, are you turning your cars over very, very quickly? That could be one of the, that obviously, if you've only had your car for a year and you financed a big portion of it, then that could very well, if you take it in a year later and want to trade it in, you could be upside down on that loan. So,
yeah.
So that is a big consideration of, is leasing a better idea for you than purchasing would be? But that's just one of several questions that go into the whole lease versus buy thing.
Yeah. It's when you're looking at it, it's, how often do you drive? Like if you are listening to this and going, okay, yeah, I like to trade my cars every couple of years.
Yeah.
But you travel for work across state lines and are putting, so let's say over 15,000 miles a year on your car.
Yeah, depending on, I will say this, depending on what website you look at, I looked at a few, and the average mileage of an American, if you just take all ages and both sexes and average them all together, it's around 13,000 miles.
Okay.
There's another website that says it's upwards of around 15,500. That's just for the average miles per year of your average driver. If you lump everybody together, obviously it changes if it's a young person or an old person and so on and so forth. But so on average, you will probably find that if you're average, then you drive somewhere around 15,000 miles per year. The average lease, on the other hand, usually they tend to hover closer to around 12,000 miles per year. And so the average American tends to drive a little bit more than the average lease mileage allows. So that's just, I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, no, I mean, but that's something to consider with the leasing and buying is, buying is something that you're planning on holding it for a while. It's kind of like with stocks. You buy, you're more than likely you're planning on holding it for a while and seeing how it goes, not just quickly getting in and out of it really fast.
Yeah.
So with the lease, it's you're determining, does this fit? Do I want to change my car up every, couple of years or so? Am I not driving crazy miles? And I think a component of it too is kind of how do you treat your car?
Yeah. I mean, if you average, you might be able to get more miles than the 12,000. I'm not saying you're limited to 12,000. It depends on the lease. It depends on the company, but you might be able to get more than the 12,000 miles. But
Cort's favorite phrase, "It depends," is very much the car dealership world.
But if you're like, oh no problem, 12,000 miles, I can do that, no problem. But you beat your car up in those 12,000 miles, then you're turning back in a junker because you're hard on your car.
Oh yeah, I'm thinking of like almost every John Candy movie where he's got like wrappers on all the cars and it falls apart. Of course, we don't talk about planes, trains, and automobiles because I hope that wasn't it. Well, that was a rental car, wasn't it?
Yes, they rented that car.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I'm thinking about every single car that is in my family. All of our cars are all beaten and scratched and dinged and so forth and trashed. And I mean, we've had 3 teenage drivers for several years now. Cars don't hold up under that pressure.
Yeah. So the thing is, I feel like I didn't hear a lot about leasing cars when I was younger, and it was a lot more about buying. So manufacturers kind of flipped the switch, and leasing now is a little bit more attractive to them. If you're trading every 3 years, it's better to lease than a 72-month purchase. And they've actually found the loyalty rate. A 36-month lease has a 65% retention rate versus that person that came in and did the 72-month purchase. It has about a 20% retention rate. Because you think about it, if they haven't gotten them on as service clients, so you're driving your car and say you're one of the ones that bought, and you've had it for 70 months out of the 72 months that you're financing it. And it may be that it's starting to get a little rattle and it's starting to, have a little
it's definitely got
issues and bells popping up left and right.
Yeah.
So you may be frustrated and be like, oh man, I don't want to drive a Honda anymore. I want to switch and get a Subaru now or something like that. So that's where they're saying, the 20% retention rate versus if you're driving a lease car and you've only had it for 30 months and you're thinking, oh, in 6 months I get to switch to something new. Mm-hmm. So it's really, that's where it's kind of become more attractive, and they've jumped on that. And I think, that's something to think about.
So, if you run your cars ragged, or if you trade them down through your family, or if you just put a lot of mileage on them, then leasing may not be the way to go, because you may not be able to fit within the bounds. But on the other hand, like for instance, you may have business travel, but still keep your mileage relatively low. And if you are leasing, then that's an expense that, you've got a business expense there. That's a deductible expense.
Oh yeah.
So, maybe you lease because that way, you're expensing it, and you're you don't have an asset that you're depreciating. You're leasing it, and somebody else is dealing with the sale, like you said, down the road when it's time to turn in. Your employee turns it in, they get a new car that's going to be able to do whatever it is that they need to do, or you're going to be able to do whatever it is you need to do for your business. And you haven't had to deal with all of those other bookkeeping issues that you might confront as an owner if you purchased a car.
Yeah.
But again, a lot of that's going to come back to mileage, because I know when I was traveling salesman, I was putting closer to 25 to 30,000 miles a year on my car. And so that wouldn't really fit with the whole leasing model, but it all depends.
Yeah. So David Pickler over here, he likes to drive his cars into the ground. Mm-hmm. And this last one, it was falling apart. It was a great car when he got it, brand new Lexus. And that was about probably 15 years ago.
I know, it was 300,000 miles
386,000, like 222 miles. Mm. So our family has been one of those that it's like you get a car and you hold it for a long time until the wheels fall off.
Right.
And so that's another thing, is it's your culture of what you're used to with your families versus I've married into the car business family with my husband and father-in-law, and they like to trade it out every once in a while. They like to have different new cars versus me. I'm like, I'm keeping mine for a while. I just got it comfy. Just got the seat where I like it.
Okay, so no lease. We're not going to lease, let's say. Let's say we've made that choice. We're going to buy. We're going to own, darn it. We're going to go buy. The next step is paying for it, right?
Yep.
What? We got to...
But before they may be like, oh, Cort, so you love this... What did you say you wanted? A Porsche? You love this Porsche, and it's beautiful, and it's candy apple red. Mm. But what about, do you want the luxury floor seats? And do you want the seat warmer? Do you want the crazy diamond-encrusted wheels?
No, I don't need diamonds on my Porsche.
Well, but so we're being ridiculous, but you think about it. It's one of those like, well, what about this? Let's add this to it. Let's add that. And the biggest thing would definitely be the technology features.
Yeah, technology and floor mats. It always blows my mind that they consider floor mats an add-on, that it's an option. That like who doesn't want floor mats?
I don't know.
Are there people out there that don't want floor mats?
Not me. Although, that's where all your crumbs and stuff get trapped under the floor mat, and then you get embarrassed when you lift it up, and you're like, oh, okay. Oh,
well, anyway, yeah. Those options. You got the car picked out. You know the car that's going to serve your needs, and then you're like, okay, I'll take it. Well, what about the options? Okay, so now we've gone through the options. Definitely, if I'm buying a Suburban, then I'm probably buying it because I've got a big family and I've got kids in the back seat and I want to entertain them. So I'm going to look at having those drop-down televisions that I haven't had one in many, many years, but I remember it was a godsend when my kids were little.
Oh, yeah. And if you're somewhere cold, you may really want that remote start so you can start de-icing your car. Yeah. And then it's just the safety features. There's so many out there now of adding the backup cameras or the little beeping that happens if you're too close on the front, or those little things. Yeah. That they hate drive-thrus. Yeah. I have one of those on mine. I had to turn it off.
And don't forget the touch screen.
Oh yeah, touch screen.
Yeah, the touch screen. Those consoles that are like, boy, they're not cheap to put that in the car.
No. Okay, so you figured out your car. You figured out all the add-ons. They've told you, great, that's the car you're going to drive, or they're going to have to get it from another dealership. So we now are going with financing.
Okay, we're finally to financing.
We are finally to meeting the finance guy.
Okay.
So, hopefully before you got there, you checked your credit score.
Hopefully. We told you how to do that.
Yeah.
Go back to the episode where we checked credit scores.
So that you've got an idea.
Okay, so we've been sprinkling this stuff throughout, but here is the list. You have decided to purchase the car. You have options for how you can get the car. We've said we're not going to lease it. We're going to buy it. Mm-hmm. We said that we're not going to pay for it in one big giant lump sum. We're going to finance at least part of it. So we gave you this idea that you can put down more or less of a down payment. Make sure that down payment that you put down is something that you can afford, that it's not going to completely deplete your savings. Mm-hmm. This car purchase shouldn't be an emergency purchase. Under most circumstances, you're not going out and looking at purchasing a car because it's an emergency and you need it right then. So try and leave those emergency funds alone. Leave those for an emergency and just put down whatever you can afford to put down without depleting your entire nest egg. And then finance the rest. So you're going to look at your loan options. Obviously, we've said the dealers, they like to make loans. They make money off of making the loans, but they're not the only ones that loan. Like I said, banks will make an auto loan, especially on new cars. They will also make auto loans on used cars up to a certain age. Mm-hmm. Credit unions are really good about auto loans. I said that as well. So look at all of your options and figure out where you're going to be able to get the best rate, get the most financed. What kind of down payment is going to be required to make sure that you get the payment that you need to have. Because remember, this is just part of your monthly budget. So there is a monthly payment that you're shooting for. What is it going to take for you to get that monthly payment so that it will fit within your budget?
And don't be scared when they say 0% financing. It's one of those that if you fit with this with your credit score, it could be that you set up a 0% financing for a car and you don't have to put anything down and you're set. You're financing it up for them. And you have that payment. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't pay a little extra each month if you want to. But again, it's just looking at, you're almost always going to have a car. Even if your car is paid for and you are blessed to have a couple of months or a year where you don't have a car payment, well, you may have more maintenance charges at that point. And then eventually you're going to have a car payment. So just always kind of have it built into that budget.
Mm-hmm. And so, the interest rate is important. That's gonna be determinative to a degree on the amount of your payment. How many months you finance for. When I was much younger, the standard was either 36 months or 60 months that you financed a car. And nowadays, they 72 seems to be the standard.
72, 63,
That's some weird numbers, but it's been a long time since I bought a new car. But like I said, it was either 3 years or 5 years when I was young and was buying new cars. But you've got options for how long you're going to finance it. You've got options for shop around, see what the best rate you can get, like we said, so that percentage rate will affect what your monthly payment is, how long you expect to keep it. Obviously, if you're going to keep it for 10 years, then financing it out over 72 months or 63 months, if you're getting a 0% rate, that's a very viable option for you.
Yeah, that's something that, there's a phrase around here we say, other people's money. We talked about it with credit cards. Mm-hmm. If you know you're going to have the car, then why go ahead and pay it off early? Why shorten the time period? If you're going to hold it, go ahead and spread it out over those 72 months and do your payments. Don't deplete your money.
Now, is the salesman going to be like, let's say you're going to actually go through the auto dealer to get your car loan. You've decided that they're the best option. Is the salesman the one that's going to be talking to you about getting that loan, or they've got a finance guy?
They have it where the salesman will walk you over to the finance guy and say, this is the car they want. And when you're at the finance, that's where they're going to figure out your payments with you. They're going to run your credit. They're going to figure out what your loan could be. And they're also going to talk to you about warranties. Mm-hmm. And that's something that, a long time ago, warranties were big bucks for dealerships. That's how they could really kind of get somebody like, hey, you need all these warranties. And not that warranties are great, but back then it was one of those like, okay, maybe. Now these are driving computers, essentially. There's over 30,000 parts in these cars, and just the little components. If anybody's ever been in a wreck before, you may look at your car and it looks perfectly fine, but you find out this little, 2-inch thing bent, and now it's going to cost you $10,000.
Goodness gracious.
Well, but it's kind of that craziness.
Yeah, no, yeah.
So that's where warranties now are really important, having those cars. And there's options that go into it. There's even some that you can work a deal that you get the warranty for this and it includes 4 months of service, or they've got different options. Yes, at the end of the day, the finance guy is trying to pitch and sell things to you, but it's knowing yourself. It's knowing if it's right for you. And there's nothing to say that you can't step out of that finance office and call a financial advisor, or go home and talk about it and come back and really do your research and make sure, is this a warranty I need?
Well, and again, everything that we're talking about, except for whatever cash you put down on the car to begin with, everything else goes into what you're financing.
Yeah.
So a lot of it is going to be, is a warranty a good thing to have? Because the warranty, they don't come with bumper to bumper warranties anymore. You got to pay extra for that or whatever. And you've got a car that's got you're buying a Lamborghini, and it's got, get this, Lamborghinis are now made with an automatic hydraulic lift to lift it up off the ground so that it can go over a speed bump. That's how low to the ground these things are. That's insane. So if your hydraulic lift on your Lambro goes out, then you might need that warranty coverage to get that fixed. But
it's kind of, the warranties is like life insurance.
Yeah.
So, if you decide that you want life insurance on your life because of, you never know what's going to happen, that's kind of what a warranty is. It's you're protecting your car because you don't know what's going to happen, and you may not be prepared to come out of pocket for that large amount. So you need this warranty to help you out.
And the dealers do love them, not just because they make them money, but also because they make them money in a way that you may not think about. But again, what we talked about earlier is they want to build a relationship with you. And if you have a car that's under warranty, then what are you going to do if it breaks down? You're going to take it back to the dealer, and you're going to take it to their service department, and they're going to fix it. And the automaker, like if it's a Ford and it's a Ford dealership, or if it's a Subaru and it's a Subaru dealership, Subaru pays that local service shop because your car is under warranty. So Subaru is paying them to fix your car. It's not costing you anything, but the service shop is still earning that revenue for fixing your car.
Yeah.
So they've got, they're motivated to get you in a warranty because it means that they may keep you coming back to them. They're still going to get paid. They're getting paid by the dealer, and your car is staying fixed. It's a good racket if you can find one.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of those that, heaven forbid, if you bought a new car and you drove it off the lot, and then things just keep happening left and right. Like, you pretty much have bought the money pit house version of a car, that it's just everything goes wrong with it. There is something called the lemon laws. And no, that's not, a nice little drink or something like that you get. It is a law that actually protects those new car buyers, that they can then go to the dealerships and say, look, this is pretty much a lemon. This is, I don't know if you've ever heard that phrase, but it's, it's a junker. It doesn't work. Something's wrong with it.
Yeah, I'm going to give you a pass on that as jargon. I'm pretty sure most people know what we mean when we say it's lemon. I think.
If we got some younger people, they may not have heard that phrase.
It's distinctly possible. You never know. So obviously, lemon laws are not just, I took my car off the lot and I decided I don't want it. There's no buyer's remorse here. There's no protection for you. If you purchase your car, you don't have some sort of 3-day right of rescission or anything like that. This is just protection for if the car actually does not work. Like if it is provably they can't fix it for a certain period of time, or you've had to take it back in several times for the same issue, then there's protection there for you that they would have to actually buy that car back from you. They would buy that car back from you, and you replace it or whatever. Again, it doesn't cover buyer's remorse. That just covers if there was a manufacturing defect, basically, that made the car inoperable.
Well, and I'm sorry in advance to my father-in-law, but through some of the fun research of this, I did find out that, we talked about the Toyota Corolla was, one of the best-selling cars. Well, actually, the Honda Accord is one of the most frequently stolen in the United States. So if you're driving a Honda Accord,
I am.
Lock your doors, hide your keys, hide your wife.
I drive a Honda Accord. I've been a Honda guy for a long time, so good to know.
But yeah, so I mean, that's about financing. And again, you've got options, you've got research. Look at your whole picture. Look at the car as a buying expense, and that it's not an investment.
Okay, so that feels like a great place to just sort of stop this and give them our bullseye, our one or 2 points, Katie, that they should walk away with if they walk away with anything from this episode, this crazy thing we call a cast.
Okay, my bullseye. Understand your budget. Make sure you look at the whole picture and figure out how much you can afford. And do not be scared to take advantage of other people's money. Do not be scared of taking advantage of financing.
Right.
Because it can be your absolute best friend to make sure that you're not depleting your cash.
Yes. Okay, so let me roll off of that bullseye. My bullseye is this. Know your credit score. Mm-hmm. Know what your budget is. Know how much you can pay for not just the car, but the maintenance of the car, including fuel, regular oil changes, stuff like that. And know how much cash you can spare without depleting your nest egg. You can take all of that information and you can figure out with your dealer or with your banker exactly how much you need to finance for how long to find the payment that fits with you. Dealers will work with you. The finance guy at the dealership will work with you to get this loan and to get this monthly payment at the right place. Bankers will help you get this payment at the right place. And it's all going to come down to how much do you put down? How long do you finance it? And what is your rate? What is the interest rate that you're paying on that loan? Those are the three big things. And if you get that right, then you can stick to your budget. You can pay for that transportation expense. And you can have that Toyota Corolla bullseye.
So, by the way, we said at the beginning, Toyota Corolla is sold every 40 seconds. Mm-hmm. So you've been listening to this podcast. 70.5 have been sold.
Just while they've been listening to this podcast.
Just while they've been listening.
That's amazing. Whoa! Katie, there's the closing bell. Ladies and gentlemen, you've made it through yet another episode of Bullcast Podcast. We appreciate you listening to us. If you haven't subscribed already, please go to your favorite subscription service and subscribe to the Bullcast Podcast. You can leave a comment if you want to. You can also find out more about me and Katie at our website, bullcastpodcast.com. You can also submit a question, submit a topic if there's something you'd like to hear us talk about. Also, you can reach out to us on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is @BullcastPodcast. And if you'd like to see the occasional picture of us that we throw up on Instagram, our handle over there is @BullcastPodcast as well. Finally, Katie mentioned the man earlier today, David Pickler. We work for him at his company. It's Pickler Wealth Advisors. And if you'd like to find out more about David or more about the rest of our amazing team, you can go over to the Pickler Wealth Advisors website to find out all of that great information. Find out a little bit about what it is we actually do. That's picklerwealthadvisors.com.
With an O, not an E.
That's advisors with an O, not an E. So, ladies and gentlemen, I have given you plenty to be going on with. And so for now, I'm Cort.
I'm Katie. Shake and bake, baby.